Now the idea is we're going to start putting some things on paper that you would show to somebody officially and say, here is my business plan. This is my business plan. I want you to help me come up with some money to fund it. So to start that, we want you to look at the lean canvas model. And they have an example here of a vegan restaurant.
He's a vegan, so he doesn't eat meat, milk products, or anything that comes from animals. He also works at Pasila, and he has noticed that the only way for a vegan to have lunch in that area is to prepare his own lunchbox, which usually is a drag. So he had an idea. What if there was a lunch restaurant serving vegan food in Pasila? Is there demand? Would people come? Can he make money? Let's take a look what his idea would look like as a lean canvas. What we have here is a blank lean canvas. Let's start by giving this idea a name, vegan restaurant in Pasila. Next we can go ahead and specify who the customers would be. Vegans naturally, but they also would probably need to live or work in Pasila. And to further narrow down the first customer spec, it's easiest for Joe to first figure out if other people like him share his problem. This is a good idea since keeping the first customer definition narrow dramatically helps the next steps, and you can always broaden the audience once there's traction. So maybe 25, 35 years old and with reasonably high income. Done. Next up, the problem. Joe already knows that there are no restaurants in Pasila serving vegan food, and at least for himself, it's really annoying to prepare your own lunch every day. What could be the ingredients of the solution? Joe thinks that his customers would appreciate good quality food, and also the restaurant would obviously have to be nearby the Pasila office complexes. And also the service should be quick since usually people have tight schedules during the workdays. A unique value proposition should boil down how you're different from everybody else and what you're worth paying attention to. In this case, it's quite easy to be the best when you're the only one. And for the unfair advantage, Joe's brother happens to be a chef and a vegan himself. Plus he's also interested in opening his own restaurant. Making vegan food taste exquisite is no simple task, so it's definitely hard to copy. Channels. How can Joe reach the 25 to 35-year-old vegans who work in Pasila? Outdoor ads near workplaces, obviously. Where else are vegans using their time? Vegaanifoorumi for one, Facebook groups. Facebook even lets you target advertisements by age, interest, location, and so on. Joe also thinks that word of mouth has a crucial role in this customer segment. As metrics, it's good to have numbers that are actionable and react quickly. Joe chooses metrics that tell him if his solution box is working. For example, number of returning customers really tell him if people are finding value in his solution. Other metrics that he chooses are quality of food and average turnaround time. At this stage, costs and revenue are best to be left really rough, since all of this is just best guesses. One good tactic is to estimate the customer acquisition cost and the lifetime value per one customer. So, how much would it cost to get one customer through the door, and how much would they be bringing money in over the entire customership? Joe's estimate is that it would take 19 euros on average to get one customer, and one customer would visit 30 times on average and pay 12 euros for each lunch. That adds up as 19x as the LTV CAC multiplier, which is in a good territory. It's good to highlight that all of this is just an educated best guess at this stage. To validate whether the canvas has anything to do with reality, Joe will make a series of MVP tests to turn those yellow traffic lights either green or red.
Okay, so you got the gist of the lean canvas model. Basically, they just want you to know what that means. Let's move on to the components of a multi-page business plan. Yeah, a business plan is probably going to be a minimum of 30 pages to be taken seriously, even though most people will decide on whether they're interested in the business probably by only reading about 3 or 4 pages. Basically, you don't show a 30-page business plan to the sharks on Shark Tank. They want to know a few things that are key before they know if they're going to jump into business with you. Number 1, the section that summarizes what your company is, where you want to take it, and why your business idea will be successful is called the executive summary. Executive summary means this is the overall plan condensed down to just the finest points, and so you can get the idea fairly quickly. It's like instead of reading that 400-page novel for English that you just can't stand, it's not your kind of a style of a story, then you get the Cliff Notes, if you've heard of that, and you find out in reading about 10 pages what it's all about, so you can do a book report and get away with not having to read the whole novel. That's what an executive summary is. If you are seeking financing, the executive summary is also your first opportunity to grab a potential investor's interest. So again, going back to this flower, I can give you every detail on how we're going to make the flower and the corporate structure, all of that kind of stuff. But really what you want to know is, okay, is there a demand for the flower? How much does it cost you to make it? How much money are you making off of it? And if we're going to sell 1 million of these things and make millions of dollars, then I'm interested. The executive summary makes it sound important. It's for the executives. If you are seeking financing, the executive summary is also your first opportunity to grab a potential investor's interest. Sometimes that's literally all they read, and sometimes they even want you just to say, what is the executive summary? The executive summary usually appears at the beginning of your plan. I have seen it at the very end. It makes more sense to put it at the beginning. You put it at the beginning of your plan, even though it should be the last section you write. It highlights the strengths of your overall plan. So you actually do all the fine-tuning of your executive summary once you've written the rest of your plan out. So you've got everything kind of figured out, and then you summarize it. Also near the beginning of your plan is the mission statement. That explains what your business is all about. So what is the mission of your company? This is usually about 3 sentences. What are your objectives? What are you doing to reach your objectives? And it should be at least 2 to 3 sentences. I'm going to put up on the screen some common mission statements, hopefully from some companies that you've seen or heard of. And you can kind of get an idea of what some mission statements look like. A lot of times this alone, with other employees involved, especially now you may be starting as a sole entrepreneur. But let's say that your business expands and you end up having, some workers in different states. Well, you could end up with a multinational corporation. But at some point, the mission changes a little bit. So you get everybody together for a conference, serve drinks, have lunch, and you work on the mission statement. What are we? Who are we? 3 days later, you finally hone it down to what your mission should be. It's a good idea. I think some people overkill it. But I want you to be thinking about what is the mission of your company. There's a couple of others that go along with that. There's a purpose statement that we don't talk about in this class, when you can get it down to 3 or 4 words about why you exist. Let's take something like these Swig soda pop stations. That's what I call them. They exist to serve sugared water and high fructose corn syrup to addicted teenagers. But that's too many words. No, they might say, we exist to quench our customers' thirst. Well, anyway, we don't do that one, but we do the vision statement. Often located near the mission statement is the vision statement. These sentences describe where your business is heading and what it will look like in the future. So you can say, right now I know I want to do this. Right now I know I want to sell rollerblades. And that's great. But what happens when you determine that the rollerblade market isn't as good anymore and everyone's riding the one wheels, and you've come up with a one wheel that is less expensive than the $1,500 retail price? I mean, I think those things are great, but to spend over $1,000 on a sort of motorized, cool one-wheel skateboard, there's probably a need there. So you say, okay, we're going to come up with a one wheel that only costs $500. And now, of course, your vision might change. But not only that, you should look out into the future and say, it's not necessarily just about these rollerblades. What do we want to look like in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Do you want to have that multinational corporation? Do you want to be Nike? Or do you just want to keep selling the very best rollerblades you can, but you are known for having the best rollerblades, and they're in every store? I mean, not just in the rollerblade stores that might be something like Big Five or Athletics or something like that, but they're in every Walmart and online everywhere you can imagine. When kids type in, I say kids because they're mostly kids probably that get rollerblades, when they type in rollerblades, you come at the very top of the Google search. You know, what is your vision for your company? All right, for some reason I renamed these or renumber these here. We start over with a 1. I'm not sure exactly why I did that, but we're just going to continue on because this is all part of your business plan. The section that provides a high-level overview of the different elements of your business is called the company description. These things sound like they all kind of overlap and dovetail, and that's fine, but basically this is what you're supposed to put in a business plan. You could probably get away with doing something that you think really hits your investor, your board of directors, the way they want to be talked to. This is traditional. Okay, so here you're helping readers and potential investors quickly understand the goal of your business and its unique proposition. Remember, we talked about the unique value proposition or the unique selling proposition. What is it about your rollerblades that is unique? Well, instead of just 4 wheels, you guys have 20 tiny little wheels that just fly. I doubt that's even possible. Number 2 says, describe the nature of your business and list the marketplace needs that you are trying to satisfy. Okay, so this is the same thing we talked about before. You should be halfway there already. What are the needs of the market that you are satisfying? And what is the nature of your business that satisfies those needs? So let's just invent flavored milk. Right now, pretty much the market only has banana milk, chocolate milk, and strawberry milk, to my understanding. Well, you find out there's a whole need out there for kids that don't want the fruit flavors. They want the candy flavors. So you come up with bubblegum milk. I'm trying to think of what other candy flavors. How about like any or every flavor bean? How about every flavor milk? So you say, I am going to make all these different flavors of milk. That's the nature of my business. And we have done our market research and we know what the top sellers are going to be. And then you list that marketplace need, and immediately the people that read your business plan say, I get it, I see what you're trying to do, and let's see if there really is a need. Number 3 says, explain how your products and services meet these needs. Same thing. I just want you to fill all these sections out. And by the way, your first draft won't be your final draft. I think you realize that. Number 4 says, list the specific consumers, organizations, or businesses that your company serves or will serve. Now, sometimes this is in a geographic area. Remember, we talked about the demographics, geographics, and psychographics. This is where this comes into play. There's one thing that I don't think they even have us talk about, which is, you've got a business to a consumer. So again, I'm selling this to a consumer. But what if I am the manufacturer of these roses, and I know that they are actually going to businesses who then sell them or then just give them to their employees? That's called business to business. Some of you may have something where you're doing business to business sales. So you're going to list those specific consumers as you've done all your demographics, psychographics, geographics, and write those down. So if someone reading your business plan says, they know exactly to whom they are selling or serving. Number 5, explain the competitive advantages that will make your business a success, such as your location, expert personnel, or ability to bring value to your customers. McDonald's has always been about location. I think you've heard that. I think it was Ray Kroc himself, the founder. Well, they call him the founder, but he wasn't the original McDonald's brothers. But the founder of McDonald's realized at one point that he doesn't sell hamburgers. He's in the real estate business. So he tries to find the best location he can, takes down that real estate, that property. It's sometimes in the middle of the block and sometimes it's in a corner, but it's always in a high traffic area or a very convenient area to go get fast food. And do you have that area? Is that your location? Or is your competitive advantage your expert personnel? A lot of businesses are built around someone who is just an expert. I remember there being a Dr. Wentz who had developed nutritional products that were easy on the stomach. And when they realized that this was sometimes about the only product, a liquid kind of a drink, kind of a shake, that cancer patients could keep down. Because if you can imagine, they're going through chemotherapy, they're sick, and what is something that is easy for them to digest and still get the nutrition they need? And so this Dr. Wentz developed some nutritional supplements, and particularly these shakes, that cancer patients could drink. So they built a company around that. I guess I'll tell you, it became USANA. And some of you guys have heard of the USANA Amphitheater, where they have a lot of concerts. But USANA is a nutritional product based around an expert. And then it says the ability to bring value to your customers. So again, what value do you bring? That's something I always pitch. You can always be a low price leader on something. But I think there's a market for quality and value. And most people want those lines to cross. They want to say, okay, I want the highest quality for the lowest price. And then when they get the highest quality for the lowest price, they think they've got a real value. Let's take the cars again. Teenagers love talking about cars. Let's say that there's a Mercedes Sports Coupe. Man, that would be a cool car. You got an expensive car. It's a $60,000 car. But you find one on KSL Classifieds. A guy just says, you know what? I've gotten so many tickets speeding in this car. I've got to sell it. I'm going to let it go for $30,000. Well, a lot of people would say, wow, a $60,000 car for $30,000. I'm going to find some way to buy that. It created a demand. And that's the value that your investors, your board of directors, they're looking to see what value do you actually, as a person, they want to know that too, by the way, just kind of a little digression here, of what value are you? So you, as a student, saying you can do this business, do I believe in you? Do you bring value to the table? And of course, does your product or service bring value to the market?